Hello everyone and welcome back to the Lettered Classroom. It has been a very long time and I am so happy to be back right here in the same spot that I always do these videos in my house. I hope that you are all really doing well, that you are having a good start to your year. I know it's already March, so it's been a while, but very, very happy to be back. So seeing you guys in the chat, I love seeing some of my familiar faces. Thank you all so much for being patient with me over this past several months of me just kind of getting some things situated, getting over being sick, and then getting started with the 2021 school year. And we've been working behind the scenes on a lot of different things that, of course, I will be sharing throughout this live chat. So how's everybody doing? I want to know, because I see a lot of familiar faces, but I want to know exactly what is your teaching situation right now. So if you guys remember, I started back in August of 2020, full in person. I had about 20 kids. I still have 20 kids in my class with a couple of that are pushing in and out throughout the day. So I want to know exactly what is your teaching situation. Leave it in the comments. I want to see what you guys have going on in there. So I see lots of people. I see Lola, so good to see you, girl. Kylie and Allison, and I see the creative, which is the catchist. I'm looking at Trent. Trent's my husband, guys. So if you're new to this channel, hello, my name is Bridget Spackman. I am a multi-age teacher in Central Pennsylvania, but right now I've been confined to 5th grade due to our current circumstances. And I have a very big passion for literacy instruction and also having kids be able to lead their own learning, becoming independent and critical thinkers. So very, very excited about some of the content that I'm going to be rolling out with you guys this year. And of course, I've done several different things with our live chats. Last year, we did the 10-part series with Bridging Literacy. I had like a little mini series right at the start of the year. So I have some things coming, but right now we're just going to kind of ease ourselves back into it. How about that? So let's see what your comments are. I see 6th grade teacher, Lola, so good. I love 6th grade. I think it's such a fun grade level to be able to teach. I love the content in there and just the critical thinking that happens in there. So Allison is in person and remote. So you're doing both at the same time? Ooh, that's challenging. Hybrid. So I see full in person since September. Lynette, I'm right there with you. We have been full blown in person and it's gone really, really well. I have been very impressed with how well our kids have been. They're very resilient and they've just been really happy to be back in the classroom, which is great. So, okay. Let's go ahead. I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping. As you guys know, I feel like it's been a while, so I have a lot to be able to share with you. So the first thing that I really want to share is probably the coolest thing out of everything that I'm going to share with you. And that is, I'm an author. I wrote a book. How insane and wonderful is that all at the exact same time? So I have a book that is available for pre-order. It's called Jumpstart Learning in Your Kids. And the idea behind the book, if you have not seen that video already, my announcement video over in my YouTube channel, that I basically wanted to gear this towards parents. Now, it's not only geared towards parents, teachers can also read it and get a lot of really good information, but it's essentially how do we help encourage kids in learning? How do we help them be successful? And what are all of the elements that we need? So I like to think of this book as it's not just a parent's job, it's also a teacher's, because when we kind of tag team it and when we do it together, when we're, you know, both kind of talking and saying these things and following up with our kids, then they're really going to be successful in general. So it's geared towards both parents and for teachers, but yeah, I wrote a book. How cool is that? You guys can pre-order this over on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, which is really neat. And I love, is it Joanna? I think it's Joanna, right? I'm pretty sure. I was like, I'm pretty sure it's Joanna. I was trying to think and remember it. But yes, so Joanna's already pre-ordered it. You are my favorite person in the whole wide world. All right, so that is the first thing. The next thing that I wanted to quickly cover, and thank you guys so much, by the way, for all your support with the book. I have had so many lovely comments, so many wonderful things, messages that were sent to me, and I just appreciate all of your support that you have given me through this entire journey. It's been a really interesting journey, and I'm very excited about it. So I can't wait for that to release. It's going to be released on April 21st, which is my dad's birthday. How fun is that? I loved it. Okay, moving on to the next thing. I wanted to chit chat about units. So I have Bridging Literacy units for those of you who have been following me for a while. And I know that this year has been quite crazy. I did not realize that the undertaking that I was what I was taking on of doing 3 grade levels all at once was going to be this epic. It's pretty epic trying to do all of these grade levels all at one time, but it's also a really fun journey, and I love doing it. So I have various units up for Bridging Literacy that kind of follow the Bridging Literacy model, and it follows all of the units within the cheat sheet. So everything that you see highlighted on the screen, that's going to be what I have released and have done, and it is available for you. One more to add. I have just currently finished up the research unit. That's unit 5 for 4th grade. So that is posted today, which is also really, really exciting. So if you are looking at some of those units, you're needing some of them, head over to my store, theletteredclassroom.com/store, and you can grab any of those units that you need. All right. Whew, I feel like I'm talking 100 miles a minute. Probably am, because I'm a little bit nervous. It's been a while. Okay, so there are the units. The other thing that I wanted to mention to you guys really quick, for those of you, if you're new to this channel and what I do, because I have such a huge passion of literacy, I have developed a method of instruction for reading and writing, and it is an integrated model for teaching reading and writing. And so something to kind of help you get an understanding of what is it that this woman is like jabbering on about. I have created a cheat sheet, and with this cheat sheet, it's totally free. You can grab it. It gives you all of my units that I teach for 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, and they're aligned to Common Core standards. So it's aligned with writing and for reading, and you can see exactly what each unit is going to entail. So if you're looking at the units, not really sure if you want to kind of dive into it or purchase those yet, grab the cheat sheet first, because it's going to give you a very clear understanding of what I am trying to convey in those units, or what is it that I'm trying to teach within those units.
Try the cheat sheet chat button.
Oh, we're going to try a button that my husband, let's see if that works. My thing keeps pausing over here. Okay, so you can grab that cheat sheet and see if Trent's going to put it up in the chat for you guys. You're going to grab that cheat sheet so that you can get a better idea of what those units really entail. All right. I think those are all the really good things that I needed to kind of mention into this. Everybody's doing good. I have a really fun topic for you guys today. I don't know, maybe it's not as fun as you think it is, but I really like talking about curriculum, so it's always fun for me when I get to have these conversations. But the biggest thing that I want you guys to know, first and foremost, is that I have a freebie for you. And because it is my first live, and I appreciate that you guys came out and joined me for this live, it is only available during the live. So as soon as our live is done, it is not going to be available at all. So thank you for all of you who are joining in on this conversation. So let's chat.
For BLC members.
Huh? Oh, and it's free for BLC members. So if you are a BLC, Bridging Literacy Community, you already are able to get this for free. So what I have, one of the things that I've done within my units that I've been writing is I've created something called think marks. And my think marks are kind of a play off of bookmarks, obviously, but they're really meant to help kids think, especially when they're working on graphical organizers. I always feel like kids kind of feel lost. It's like a curtain goes over them. They don't really know exactly what they need to be writing down. They need some sort of guidance whenever they're filling out something based on a specific skill. So I started coming up with think marks. Guys, I have to tell you, these think marks have totally changed the game for me. My students, their work has just gotten so much better by using these think marks. So what I do is I laminate them for them, and then we put them onto a ring. And in their desks, they have a learning toolkit. And in that learning toolkit, that's where they're going to place these little think marks. So each think mark has a specific skill. So you can see that this one's comparing and contrasting text structures. So it has different questions that would kind of guide them through comparing and contrasting two different text structures. I have a lot of informational ones. Literature is going to be added. So we have different text structures there, problem and solution. It goes into plot. So if they need a reminder of what plot is, this one will go through that. You have identifying the central and main idea. Context clues. Holy moly, context clues is very difficult. So context clues to help students be able to identify the context clues that help them with understanding vocabulary words. But this is going to be absolutely free during this live chat. So you guys can head over to theletteredclassroom.com/store and you can grab this totally free by using the code ThinkMarks, right? With an S?
Yep.
No dash. Do not use the dash. So it's just think marks. Put that in for the coupon code, grab that freebie now so that you guys can have that. Thank you for joining me on this live chat. Okay, so let me grab a little sip here. So Isabel, you've been 100% virtual since March. Why'd you guys go since, I guess, March of last year? Is that what you're saying? Because we just started March. So I'm assuming it meant that's 2020 is what you're talking about. That's been a long time. That's a very long time. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into our topic today. Allison, yes, it is free for BLC people. I think I didn't add it to that.
I added it.
Okay, so Trent went on ahead and did it. So you can just grab it using that special code for BLC people, and it'll be totally free. So you don't have to worry about trying to grab it right here, right now. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into today's topic of conversation. So today we're talking about why no curriculum will ever meet your needs. Why no curriculum will ever meet your needs. I think it's been really interesting in my journey of writing curriculum over the past several years, because I've been doing it now for 5 years with my district. I write ELA curriculum. I wrote some science and some social studies curriculum with them. And in this journey of writing curriculum, it never fails. We always, every single year, will have teachers tell us that they want a program, a curriculum that is purchased by the district and given to teachers, versus it just being written by teachers in the district. Because we put up resources in Schoology and we write out the standards and we kind of give the progression and all of that, but they want like a true curriculum. So here's the question that I have for you, and I want you to put this into the chat. Do you have a curriculum? And I'm talking not a curriculum that your district writes for you. I'm talking about like a Harcourt series. Put that in the chat. Let me know, do you have a curriculum? And specifically, what curriculum are you using for your grade level? I think it's always interesting to hear the different sides, because teachers either really want curriculums or they are totally adamant that they do not want to have curriculums. And so I wanted to do this because the curriculum that I'm writing, Bridging Literacy, I think it's fantastic. Obviously, I wrote it. I'm obviously going to think it's fantastic, right? But I'm also here to tell you that Bridging Literacy, although it is really well written, in my opinion, and it tries to include all of the different elements that you have to have, it's not going to meet all of the needs that you have in your classroom. So we're going to chit chat a little bit about why curriculum will not meet. Not a single curriculum out there will ever meet all of your needs. And then we're also going to talk about what exactly you can be doing in your classroom. I have 5 specific things that you're going to be able to do in your classroom to help you supplement with that curriculum. So even if you have a curriculum and you're like, my county or district does not let me go outside of the lines of this, like it is like straightforward. If I say a word outside of this curriculum, I get in trouble. So even if you are curriculum and you have to live by it, I still have 5 things that will really help, and you're going to see a huge difference in your kids' learning and excitement about reading and writing. So I promise you, these 5 things will really work. So I'm saying, oh, Angela, you said my curriculum is great. You're my other favorite person on this chat. Fun fact, I do that with my students all the time. And all of them get really upset whenever I have like a new favorite person. They're like, you just said I was your favorite. Listen, my feelings, they move with the wind and the trees. That's just what it is. Okay, so CKLA Amplify. I don't think I've ever heard of that curriculum. That sounds interesting. I'm going to have to Google that a little bit later on this evening. Let's see. Nothing beyond the outcomes and some suggestions for implementation. Yeah, that's kind of how we are in my district as well. So benchmark for 4th grade, big ideas, which is high school math. Interesting. And then the HMH intro reading, Reading Wonders. I've definitely heard of Reading Wonders. That's going to be one that I've seen. And then my perspectives. You guys have a lot of them that I feel like I've never heard of. So now I'm going to have to spend a lot of time this evening Googling all of those. Okay. So some of you have curriculums. Now, for those of you who do have curriculums, do you have to live by them? Like, do you have to like absolutely like, this is what I have to live by? Or is it used more as a supplement, a resource for you? I will tell you guys, back when I taught kindergarten, because I taught kindergarten for 4 years, for those of you who don't know, in Alabama, Birmingham, Alabama, I was the kindergarten teacher, loved it. But we had, when I first started, Harcourt. And I specifically remember my reading coach at that time, she came and said, you know, we want you to use this as a supplement. Like it's here to help you. It's a resource, but it's not something that you're going to live by. And so I had to really work and learn how to look at my standards, look at the progression that the district was or the county was giving me. And then I had to look at the resources that I had in order to plan my lessons. So I've never really had a year where I had to live by the curriculum. And even then, I think I would try to, you know, I would probably poke the box a little bit, because that's the kind of a teacher I am. I poke the box a lot. So here is what I'm going to tell you. Let's go back to this idea of why no curriculum is ever going to meet your needs, because I'm probably going to make a really good bet. Like I would bet quite a bit that you either you have like a love-hate relationship with your curriculum that you are working with right now. Because I remember a lot of times Harcourt, love-hate relationship, Lucy Calkins, love-hate relationship. So there's probably a lot of like feelings going on with that curriculum. So let's chat a little bit about why we as teachers feel as though we need to have curriculums. In any format, why do we need to have something that's just a curriculum that that guides our instruction, right? The first thing is that it provides us with resources. I'm going to be flat out honest. My math teachers out there, it is so hard to find resources as an ELA teacher versus a math teacher. And I can say that because I teach both reading and math. I find my math resources so much more quickly than I can ever find any sort of ELA resources. And I think that ELA resources are way more expensive because you're having to purchase books. You need to make sure you have those titles. Your library is ever growing. It just costs more in so many other ways. So we like to have resources, and that's probably one of the big reasons why a lot of teachers are like, I gotta have a curriculum. I need something to help give me those resources so that I don't have to go out and spend hours and hours and hours looking for them. I feel you, I've been there. Another reason is that we need to have an expectation of what are we supposed to teach. Y'all, I know that I've said this a ton, but when I first started teaching 4th grade, I specifically remember saying, what does 4th grade writing look like? I remember teaching little people how to, like 5, 6-year-olds, how to write. They needed to write complete sentences. I was teaching them how to do that. That was pretty easy for me. But once I got to 4th grade, I had no clue what 4th grade writing was supposed to look like. I was really just winging it, to be honest. And so the curriculums, what we like about them as teachers is that it helps give us that expectation. Where do kids need to go? What is it supposed to look like? And this goes and ties really nicely with the next point, in that it basically will help us know what the answer is, right? Like a lot of the times they have answer keys to them. They tell you what the kid should tell you, and so you can kind of base your grading off of that, which is always really, really nice. Again, math teachers, it's totally easy to be able to say, yep, that's the right answer, or no, it's not. Reading, it's incredibly subjective. And any teacher can have, a different grade versus somebody else if they're reading that and understanding that standard differently. So the next thing is a progression. Again, I feel like in math, we have place value. They kind of have to have a good understanding of place value before they can add and subtract, before they can multiply and divide. It's kind of that natural progression. Well, when we look at ELA, these standards are written so big and so broad. It's like, well, which one am I supposed to be teaching first? There was a huge debate in my school whether plot should be taught first or characters should be taught first. And I think it's still a big debate in my school. There are some teachers who say, absolutely, we have to teach plot. There are others who believe that we should teach characters first. I believe we should teach characters first, which is why Unit 2 is where it is for Bridging Literacy. And then the last thing is the books, right? It's the fact that we have something, it'll tell us exactly what to do. We have that natural, here's what I'm going to be doing the next day. And there's none of that second guessing yourself. And I know that as ELA teachers, I think that we're really hard on ourselves because we want to give really good instruction, but it's always that, wait, am I doing this right? Or am I teaching this the right way that I'm supposed to be teaching it? Or is this what they're supposed to be doing? I feel like we do that a lot on ourselves. And it's because ELA is so subjective. It is a little bit more hard to read when it comes to those outcomes or those standards that we're looking at. So yes to all of that, right? Am I right? Like, am I at least hitting the nail on the head? Is that right? Did I say that? I got that one right, guys. So that's exactly what we want. Can I get like some amens or yeses in the comments? But all of that is why we like curriculums, right? It helps to kind of give us some guidance. But chances are that the moment that your school will turn around and say, I'm going to buy this curriculum, you're going to not like it anymore. When they come back at you and say, hey, we just spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on this curriculum, you gotta live by it. You're probably gonna say this isn't good for kids. And you're right, it's not good for kids, right? We can't say that one curriculum out there is going to be perfect for all children, because it's not, right? Our children they're different in different states, they're different in different areas. We have to make sure that we're tailoring the instruction to fit their needs, their interests, their passions. So when we have the flexibility to be able to choose different texts, when we have that flexibility to be able to work our curriculum and our lessons to fit the needs and the interests of our kids, we're going to see them like reading and writing more. When we place kids in a box, we don't get much. So here's the thing when it comes to this. Why? So it's basically this whole idea of, why do we end up wanting to have those curriculums and yet at the same time we don't want them? And we don't want them because, like I said, it places kids in a box. And I think one of the biggest things that I've seen about curriculums in general, and I'm sure that there are some really good ones out there, mine, no, I'm just kidding. But I'm sure that there are some good aspects of every single curriculum that's out there, right? Harcourt, I loved their readers. I loved me some Harcourt readers, and I would use them for some of my groups as a kindergarten teacher. Now, I've never had a series as a 4th, 5th, and 6th grade teacher, so I couldn't tell you anything about that. But I know in kindergarten, I did really love some aspects of having a Harcourt series as a resource, as a guide to some of my instruction. Not all of it, just some of it. But here's the other thing with curriculums. Curriculums will also limit our creativity as teachers. When we go in and we're doing the exact same thing every single day, and there's really kind of this monotonous feel to it, it really hinders our creativity. And so when it hinders our creativity as teachers, it's also going to do the same thing to our kids, right? It's that idea of coming in saying, if I come in super crabby, I know my kids are going to be crabby. If I come in really happy and I try to push that energy off onto my students, I know that they're going to have a really good day. So it's the same thing. If my creativity is being pushed down, it's going to push their creativity down. But here's probably one of the biggest reasons why I really don't like curriculums in general, is that they don't make kids become critical thinkers. I personally don't think that the curriculums that are out there are meeting the level of thinking that the Common Core standards are asking from us as teachers for our students. They don't allow kids to really think beyond the, A, B, C, D is what I'm going to kind of give it. And that's really important when it comes to instructing in ELA for just literacy in general. We have to have really critical thinkers who go beyond the text, who go beyond just saying, yes, I think this because this, right? We want them to dig deeper, to be more in depth, so that when they get to middle school or the high school, they're better prepared for that, because they're getting to middle school and they're having to write, papers every single week on, TDAs on theme. So how do I, as a teacher, help prepare them for something like that? And that's by getting them to go beyond that text. And here's the thing. There's a lot of these curriculums, and I love them. Again, they're not as cool as mine, but I will say they jump around a lot. Guys, they go from like summarizing to questioning and inferring to like compare and contrast another day to figurative language another day. And you're like, hold up. I can barely get my kids to understand this thing first, and now you're making me jump to this other skill. And here's the thing. The reason that the curriculums are doing that, it's called the spatial spiral practice. And it's this idea that if you are constantly trying to give and expose kids to all of the different skills over an extended period of time, they're going to be able to remember the actual learning that's happening, right? They talk about that a lot in math. They have to have that spatial thinking, that time that the kids are really having that practice, which is why they do like spiral practice. It's really well known in math. But the thing in reading is that all of the standards already spiral. They're already like that. When we teach reading, if I'm going to teach kids how to go into characters, they really have to understand and question and infer. Why? Because they're going to be inferring when we get to characters. When we start to go into plot, they have to think about what's happening to the characters and their feelings and also their traits as they move through that plot mountain. So they're using all of the things that we've previously taught them in that other skill. They have to have it in that other skill. So you're constantly bringing that up. You're saying, hey, remember when we inferred? Well, we need to use that here to be able to help us understand this. So it's really important, but we have to make sure that kids have a very solid understanding and a very solid foundation in some of those other skills, but instead of us just jumping all around. Could you imagine them doing that in math? Like if they had a day where they did multiplication, a day where they did something in fractions, and a day that they did something in adding and subtracting, like the kids would be totally lost. But no, they spend like a chapter of adding and subtracting, a chapter in like dividing. They don't do that for ELA. Lord knows why. They need to get some teachers in there to help write those curriculums. So, yes, Lola, my kids are the same way. They have to have everything broken down. They need to be able to really have that scaffolded instruction, which is why scaffolding works. Explicit instruction that's scaffolded for students. That stuff works. It's research, it's proven. They teach it in every single school. We know scaffolding works for our kids. So that's why we should be doing it that way. The other thing that I really have to say is that I feel like they don't give really good passages when it comes to your boxed curriculums. And here's why I say that. I am a true believer that we have to have kids look at a variety of text, because that's going to help us look at text complexity. You know that standard text complexity that they talk about in Common Core? This is where it comes to play here. Because if we're looking at a variety of text and we're meeting these skills, and I'm saying, hey, let's look at it in this passage. Let's look at it in this short story, or this poem, or this picture book, or a chapter from this chapter book, or this article. Kids are being exposed to a variety of them. But if we're constantly looking at things that are just passages from a curriculum textbook, that's not going to help us. if we're only looking at stories that are a couple of paragraphs long or 1 page long, that's not going to help our kids, especially when they get to 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. I'm sorry, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, we need to start having some longer text here. We're looking at like 2-3 pages at least when it comes to any form of a passage or short story. It needs to have some depth to it. We can't just use those basic passages that a lot of the box curriculums have, which I understand why they do it that way, but still, that's not authentic teaching. We have to expose kids to a variety of text across all different formats, right? So, we understand, one, that we want a curriculum. I feel you. I wanted a curriculum when I first started teaching 4th grade. I really wish I had something, which is why I went to TBT a lot of the times to go and try to find my curriculums, because I had nothing. I had no idea where I was going with anything. But now that I've started writing my own curriculums, and I've been doing this again for 5 years at my district, I feel as though with Bridging Literacy, I have found something that has really worked for me, but it hasn't met all of the needs. Because again, there is not one single curriculum, not even Bridging Literacy, which is the best ELA curriculum in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. It will still not meet all your needs, okay? So let's chat about how we can remedy this, right? Because it's this idea that we understand that not a single curriculum is going to be out there to help fix all of our problems as ELA teachers, because we've got a lot going on. Guys, I was doing my report cards just a little bit ago because they're due tonight, but I've been working over them for the past week. But I was looking over my report cards again. I swear, like, it was like 15 things that I'm marking for ELA, and I'm looking at like 7 or 8 for math. I'm like, holy moly, ELA is just a beast when it comes to the content that we have to instruct. It's crazy how much we give. All right, are you still looking at all the questions for me? Because I'm not. I'm sorry. Sometimes it's really hard for me to talk and do this at the same time. I'm just talking to Trent. Kind of?
Kind
of. Okay, so.
You just got a very specific one if you want to look at that.
Okay. Oh, is it from Helena?
Yep.
So I have a question of, what would you consider to be the most important ELA component that would be necessary for students who are finally coming to the classroom on March 25th? Well, it depends. Are you talking literature or are you talking informational? And I think for me, I would say, gosh, it's hard because you would need to have both. If I'm talking literature, I would say that it would probably be the questioning and inferring with characters. Hands down, that's one of the biggest areas that I would look at with literature. For informational, I would probably stick with my text structures and main ideas and details. Because I know for me, when I teach any sort of literature, especially in writing, if I'm going to be talking about characters, I want them to develop characters really well in their writing. So I'm going to focus on that because it's the thing that kind of integrates and mesh it. And the kids just, it all sorts to start to click for them because they're doing the same thing over and over and over again. And then the same thing goes in informational. If they're having a really good understanding and foundation of structures and main idea and detail, they're able to really build up their writing. So I would say those are probably hands down my favorite. And I would also say looking at your TDAs. And that's one of the things that we're going to be coming up with a little bit in my tips that I have. So Lynette says about 1/3 of my 4 or 5 students came to me with a reading level around kindergarten or grade 1. How do I pick passages and still teach grade level outcomes in ELA when they can barely read? Fantastic questions. You're reading the picture book. Because chances are that your kids, despite the fact that they are at a kindergarten or 1st grade level, they might, depending on if they have any sort of disabilities, because I've had ranges, right? I've had kids with learning disabilities that are, K 1st grade reading levels, which I've had to really just kind of completely adjust it. I can't expect them who, when they're really struggling to answer who, what, when, where, why questions, to be able to do a 4th, 5th grade standard. There's no way. Can't do that. So I got to break it down and back it down for them. But if your kids just struggle with the fluency aspect, but they can think and they can have conversations about books, you can read the text to them, or you can record the text of you reading it and upload it into your LMS, which is your learning management system. And then you can let them listen to it and have them respond that way. And a lot of the times, if their writing kind of matches their reading, which a lot of the times it's going to, especially if they're reading at a K1 level, it's going to match how they're reading. If they're not able to write, have them record videos. Why not? Have them record a video and let them start learning how to speak and organize their thinking as they're speaking, because that's a really important skill that we need to teach kids, and upload that video and have them submit it that way. Very, very a great experience and good opportunities for your kids to do that. Okay, so we know that we want curriculums, right? Some shape or form. And we know why we want those curriculums. We have to recognize our needs as ELA teachers, and I think our needs are justified. There's a lot going on in ELA, and I think it becomes very overwhelming, especially when we're having kids on such crazy ranges. So you have kids are from a K to like a 6th grade level in a 4th or 5th grade classroom. So you're having to adjust your curriculum based off of that, which is very challenging. But we also understand that the curriculums are not great. Even though we really want them, we know that they're not absolutely perfect, and it's never going to meet the needs of all of our students. And it's going to change. It's going to fluctuate from year to year to year. And so we have to understand, well, how can we fix this? What can we do so that if I do have a curriculum that I have to live by, but it's not meeting the needs of my kids, or if I do have, different curriculums and yet I'm just kind of playing with them as resources because you're allowed to do that, or whether you have no curriculum at all, these 5 things that I'm going to share with you are really going to transform your classroom. These are the things that I do in my own classroom to help supplement the needs of bridging literacy. So let's chat about these 5 things. So this first thing that I would recommend to you is to incorporate book talks. The first year that I tried to do book talks, it was a complete fail. Some months I did it, some months I didn't. And I think this goes into my responsibility, right? I had to be held accountable for the fact that I said I was going to do book talks, but then I didn't do it. And I can't, as a teacher, I couldn't continue to make the mistake of saying, well, I just got busy, or I started doing this, because that's not helping me and it's not helping my kids. So at the end of the day, I realized, I said, you know what? I messed up. I didn't do it. I said I was going to do it. I fell through. How am I going to fix it and make it better? So I slowly started to find ways to hold myself accountable. I would find kids who would help me to hold myself accountable with it. I would set reminders on my phone. And slowly but surely, I started to build that routine, that habit that we often talk about with teaching on the double. If you follow me on my podcast over there with Michelle, we talk about building those habits and those routines. Once you have that built in, guys, it's like, boom, it's like super easy to start to implement something like this. But do book talks. And basically what a book talk is where a student will read a text independently. They will complete some form of either a guided sheet, questions, or something that would have them create this book talk. I do have a product over on my store if you guys want to check it out. You don't have to. I also have a 10-part, in our 10-part series, it is part 10 that discusses book talks and kind of goes through each of the elements of a book talk. You can watch that after this video. Don't leave me yet. And that will help you get a really good understanding of how to give a book talk in general. But student reads the book independently. The beginning of class, they come up, they say their little speech, and then they go and sit down. I have kids do 1 book talk a month. 1 book talk a month on any book that they want to read. So I have some kids who will read picture books, and I'm totally okay with that. I do try to push them a little bit. So maybe if they do a picture book for the first couple of times, I might meet with them and say, hey, let me show you some different texts that maybe you can do your book talk on this time. And I think it would be a really good one. I think you'd be great at it because you're so interested in this and you're fabulous. You got to kind of lift them up a little bit. And this entire thing will take 5 minutes. And guys, listen, if you're like, I really don't have time, I promise you can find time in your day. Like 5 minutes of your time at any point, your book talk doesn't have to be at the beginning of ELA class. If you have 5 minutes at, the beginning of content, or if you have 5 minutes right before you're about to go to recess or wherever it is, take that 5 minutes, hold on to it, and keep that just for your book talks. Because if you're doing 2 a day, like it would take me not even 5 minutes. Kids go pretty quick with them. That would take me about 2 to 3 minutes to be able to get that done. But what book talks will do is it will engage your kids. It'll get them excited about reading. It'll start to kind of show other interest on other books, because as kids are kind of sharing other books, they start to say, well, wait a minute, do you have that book? I want to read it. I think that would be a really good fit for me, because I will also display those books. So as the kids will read them, I'll display them, and it'll encourage them to want to read those books. So it's a great way to get kids excited about reading. So that's the first thing that you can start implementing. All right, and that's really going to help. And that's just building the engagement. That's building the understanding and knowledge of literacy, the independent reading. And it's just a kind of extending the genres that they're reading as well. So that's the first one. The second thing is to incorporate interactive read-alouds. Now, I think when I typically talk about my read-alouds, I think a lot of people misunderstand me. I think they say, oh, so your read-aloud is your picture book. That's a read-aloud, but it's not the read-aloud for the day. So as a fourth, I would say even a second grade to a sixth grade teacher, try and find 10, 15, I've got 30 because I'm kind of spoiled when it comes to my read-aloud, however much time that you can, and block it off for your interactive read aloud. And so this is going to be a chapter book that you're going to read with your class. Now, what makes this different from I'm just going to sit and just read and my kids are just going to listen, is that this is, as the name suggests, interactive, right? They're going to be participating in different activities, different questions. Sometimes it might be as simple as a turn and talk, but there's going to be different things that you're doing to help them start to relate the skills that you're teaching in reading and writing back to the chapter book. And this is important because fourth grade is going to be the introduction to plot, characters. You're really digging deep into that. And it gets harder and harder and harder as you get into sixth grade. My recommendation is to always use smaller text as you instruct with your basic skills lessons. So anything with bridging literacy, I will always use chapter books, passages, poetry, so on and so forth. I usually save about a month or two at the very end of the year where all I do are book clubs. Oh, I love book clubs. I'm very excited about book clubs this year. So then what you would do is I would have my chapter book where we would just take the skills that we've been learning, and I would build different little activities. It doesn't have to be fancy activities that the kids would engage in during our interactive read aloud time. And this is important because kids really need to have an understanding of, okay, I learned this skill, this strategy. How do I do this to a chapter book? I don't think that it's the best thing to always have chapter books for your small groups. I don't necessarily agree with that. I do think at some point you do have to have chapter books with your kids and you need to engage that with them, but you got to scaffold the process. Throwing them in a big, huge chapter book and saying, let's do all this stuff with this chapter book is going to be overwhelming and it's going to be challenging for some of your learners. So in order to kind of prepare them for this, to scaffold, because again, we know it works, right? What we're going to do is at the beginning of the year, we're going to start with our interactive read alouds. We're going to constantly have conversations, different activities, so that by the end of the year, we're really ready to dig into books independently. And we're really ready to show how we can take all the skills that we've been learning and implement them into the books, the big chapter books, with a small group of students. Now, how that's going to look for me this year, I don't know. I'm going to figure that out. I might have to use Zoom and just do breakout sessions right there in my classroom. I'm going to figure it out. COVID's making things a little bit difficult for me this year, but that's okay. We can totally fine tune that. I still have a little bit of time. So interactive read aloud. Every single day, do this 10 or 15 minutes, okay? You can find time, I promise you. The next thing that I would say, and this one is actually already integrated in with Bridging Literacy, but if you're not using Bridging Literacy, or if you're not, thinking of wanting to go to this method yet, I'm going to convince you at some point. I would say to start doing this now, and that's a mentor sentence. Looking at a sentence from an authentic text, either whatever it is that you're reading, you're going to pull the sentence out and you are going to start to analyze all of the different parts of it. So here's a really good example. Last week we were looking at a sentence, and the sentence was a comma in a series. So it was an informational text that we had pulled the sentence from, and we were looking at the comma in a series, and then I wanted them to take the sentences, and then I wanted them to break them up into 3 separate sentences. So the kids had their whiteboards and they broke that sentence up into 3 separate sentences. But then I told them, wait, I want you to write it as a question. So then they had to rewrite it, or interrogative, declarative, they had to write an exclamatory, and they had to change those sentences right there in front of me. They also had to find different words that fit for the parts of speech. So we looked at adjectives, we looked at adverbs, we looked at I already said adjectives, verbs, nouns, pronouns, proper nouns, all of the things. But if you do that, and if you can't do it every single day, I don't blame you. It's a long process. Do it at least once a week. And you're probably going to say, but Bridget, that's not enough. I promise you, if you do it once a week and you stay consistent with that once a week activity that lasts maybe like 20 minutes, you're going to see a difference in your students. So have a mentor sentence that you can dissect. You can do this during a morning activity, as when students are coming in, this is their morning work that they have to do in the mornings. You can do this at the end of the day as an activity. You can find little areas once a day, once a week. That's all I'm asking of you, is dissect and analyze that mentor sentence. So that's the third thing. So let's just kind of review really quick. We've got book talks, interactive read aloud that you should be doing, mentor sentence. The fourth one, it's probably one of my favorites, is reflections. I love reflecting. I have always been a teacher, maybe a person that has enjoyed reflecting on myself, my abilities, how well I've done, and I really want to instill that into my students. Why? Because I know that when I reflect, I want to grow. I want to be better. I want to get better. And so I think about what is it that I could have done differently, and I continue to grow as a professional, as a person. So I knew that I wanted to instill reflections. Again, this is something that is placed into Bridging Literacy. So it is something that they do for every single lesson, like big lesson. So they do it once a week in here, but reflections will change your students' thinking about reading. And here's where I said a little bit ago, I said TDAs. I talked about the TDA. Your TDA, which is such a scary word, by the way, for kids, text-dependent analysis. It's just a flippin' reflection. You're answering a question. That's all you're doing. But here's what makes this different, is you're answering that question using evidence. You're really reflecting. You're thinking about, okay, well, what did I learn this week? How did this make me better as a reader and as a writer? And here's how, because I remember that when I was looking at this text, here's what I did. And when I was looking at this text, I saw that it was this, and it made me go and think of this, right? When we reflect, when we're able to write down our thinking using the evidence, that's a TDA. Like, that's you answering a question and using evidence to back up your thinking. And that's what we want to teach kids to do. So you don't have to have this like scary unit of a TDA. When you teach kids to reflect and you teach them to reflect consistently and to do it well, you're going to see their writing go up. I promise you. I have been blown away with my kids' reflections this year. They get really into it. I see their split screens on their iPads and they've got the lessons and they're looking through the lessons. They're pulling out examples. They're writing the authors' names. They're taking this from multiple areas, not just one book, not one lesson, multiple lessons over a week. And they're able to compile that all into, here's what I learned. Here's how it helps. Here's how they both relate. Let me give you the examples that show this. How powerful is that? And again, this can be something that Friday, your morning work for Friday is to reflect. Boom, there it is right there. Give them Thursday and Friday to be able to reflect and pull all that information into a nice, organized paragraph, 2 paragraphs, however much you end up requiring of them. So, reflections. Fourth one, it's my favorite probably. The last thing that we can be doing as teachers to really supplement any sort of curriculum to ensure that we're meeting the needs of our students is going to be to have individual conferences. Guys, there is nothing more powerful than to sit down with a kid and to have a conversation with them about their learning. And in the very beginning, and it's a shame that they feel this way, but they almost feel like they're in trouble when you're sitting down with them. We need to stop kids from feeling as though they are in trouble when a teacher sits with them to talk to them about their learning. Kids should not feel that way. They should feel like they care, like you care about where they are in learning. Because when you care and they understand that you care, they will start to care more often. And that's the goal that we're trying to reach. Wherever you can. Guys, I remember, like, as a kindergarten teacher, I did individual conferences. I remember there were days I was in the hallway talking with kids about their learning. I had like these little notepads that the kids would have and they would write. And so we would just sit there and talk about where they were in their learning. Boom, individual conference. Setting goals for them, writing those things down for them. That's a conference. You're meeting with kids, you're discussing learning, you're setting new goals. Do it anywhere, fit it any way that you can. It doesn't need to be long. 2 to 3 minutes, super quick. I also have a few resources, and guys, I really do recommend these resources in my store that basically has all of the different forms that you would need, because I talk about 3 different types of conferences that you could be having with your students in ELA specifically. So you can go to the letteredclassroom.com/store. You can check out the conference pack, and it will give you all the forms that you need in order to hold conferences. Total game changer, I promise you. It will make such a big difference when you have these kind of planned out and these forms ready to go. So we've talked about 5 different things that can really help us be able to supplement and meet the needs of our kids, because curriculums just don't do that. Not even this curriculum is going to do it. I still have to have my interactive read aloud. I still have to have my book talks. If I didn't have my individual conferences, if I didn't have those things, my kids would not be where they were. I guarantee you they would not be where they were as learners right now. And they're doing an amazing job in reading and writing. So not every curriculum not a single curriculum out there will ever meet the needs that you have. But when we have these 5 core things in our classroom, when we integrate them, we build them, and we say that these are non-negotiables outside of the learning, the lessons that we're doing, we're going to see growth with our students, and we're going to see them they're going to start to be more excited about reading and writing and about having those conversations. They won't feel bad about talking to you about where they are in their learning, and they're going to start setting goals. They will become critical and independent thinkers. Jumpstart learning in your kids. Just saying. That was perfect. All right. I talked a lot. A lot. Do you guys have any questions? Because I have been rambling on for quite some time. But that's it. That's kind of the chat that I wanted to have with you guys about curriculum in general. I think curriculum has been a word that's been kind of going around in my school quite a bit. They're looking at a math curriculum. I was really afraid they were thinking ELA curriculum. And so I just wanted to put curriculum out there, and let's just have a talk about it, just as teachers, and understanding, what is it that we really want from curriculums, and also how we can kind of get around this idea, this feeling of I have to have a curriculum to help me get to where I need to get to. I think if you guys did the 5 things that I gave you here, you follow the cheat sheet, which again is absolutely free, you're going to be golden. You will absolutely be golden. Drop the mic. All right. I'm gonna take a drink. That was good. Any questions, guys? I think I missed anything. Did I miss anything?
Reminder to grab the freebie. So about time running.
Can you guys hear him when he talks? We're using a different microphone, so I'm wondering if they can hear you. Yes, so also Trent was saying grab the freebie because it's not going to be available for long unless you're a BLC person. The Think Marks, huge, big game changer. So you can grab this freebie now. It's not going to be available for free much longer using the code ThinkMarks because that offer is going to be going away very soon. Yeah, so Allison, I do remember you talking to me about your issue of time. And I will say, I think this year, I know the year is not perfect for even for me because I have an hour to teach ELA, 1 hour to teach ELA, and I teach whole group. I can't pull small groups, and I know every school is a little bit different. My kids are not allowed to get up out of their desk, so they're sitting down for about 98% of the day, which is really sad when you think about it. So I will tell you, I'm meeting the needs of my kids just using that curriculum as a whole group. Now, I do have like a few little oddballs that I have to meet with them, and I have to get to them at certain points in the day. We have something that's called like a win time. We have, you know, our afternoon time. Sometimes we leak into content, but I meet with those kids individually whenever I get a chance so that I can get them to where they need to be. But I have an hour, and just with using the Bridging Literacy, I'm able to meet all of the needs of my students for the most part. So I totally understand where you're coming from with your kids just getting pulled. And I would say too, one of the other things that I've been doing, just because I know that I've had a lot of kids getting pulled to be quarantined, I've started creating videos, and I will put the videos up. Or I will have photos of different parts of my lesson, and I will have them posted into our LMS, and that helps a ton in my classroom, a ton. Alex Lopez says you need to speak up. Didn't say that. I'm saying that. Yeah, so Lola, that 50 minutes, I mean, that's how much I have, is I have about an hour. And I have plenty of time for my kids. So my lessons end up taking me about 15 to 20 minutes, and then they spend the rest of the time working independently, getting their tasks done for the day, while I'm able just to meet with some of my kids where I need to meet with them. So Lola had a question of how can I motivate my students to get excited about what they are about to learn? You know, I think one of the things that I have always, and I don't know if it's just because of my personality, but I have always felt that when I teach, it's like my opportunity to act. And I get really passionate about it. And I honestly believe that when they feel the passion that I have about this, when I feel as though I really know the curriculum, and this one's important, which I never really would have said that this is probably one of the most important pieces when it comes to teaching in general, but you have to be a master of the content that you teach. You truly have to be the master, because you'll start to feel that you're not as confident, and when you're not as confident about something, they are not as interested. But when you have confidence, when you're excited about something, when you have that, like, guys, here's what this means, let me really explain it to you. When you're the master of your content, they're going to get really excited about it because you're able to talk about it and relate it to different things in their life, and that gets them excited. So I haven't really been able to do fun stuff, right? I can't put them into cool groups and have them like explore something. They can't touch stuff like but I will say, like, that just me being a true master of my content and just relating it to other areas in their life has really made a difference for me. That's really the only thing that I could do at this time to get them excited about the content that they're going to learn. Whew, I talked a lot. Okay. So we're getting down. You have 1 minute. You have 1 minute, guys.
Sign off at 8 on the dot.
8 on the dot. I gotta go. So I hope that you found this useful. Again, Think Marks are going to be heading out. We're going to be closing that off in the store. BLC people, this is absolutely free for you, so just go check.
There's a post that gives the code.
Post that gives the code in the forum where you're able to get that absolutely for free. Go ahead and start using those with your students. And I will tell you guys, when I do this with my students, one of the things that I will tell you is I model with it. That is going to be huge. Don't just hand it to them and be like, here, use this. That's not going to work, okay? You have to model for them. So what I would do is if I was teaching a lesson on comparing and contrasting text structures, then I would have my graphic organizer up front. I would tell my students take out their whiteboards, take out their Think Marks, and then I would say, all right, let's look at this, let's read this together. And so I would read the first bullet here, and then I would model it and think out loud. And then I would show them how to write that and use that to help me fill out my graphic organizer. Then I would have them read the next question. And then I would say, I want you to think for a minute and I want you to use your whiteboards to complete that. And so they would then start to kind of get some of that practice. I'm walking around and saying, yes, no, here's what you should really be thinking about. Here's how you should be using it. So we practice all of this before I set them off to go free with it. That's really going to ensure that they're successful with the Think Marks in general. So grab those. I think it's a great resource. Next week, let's chat about what the video is going to be for next week. So next week's live chat, we will do it at 7 o'clock, same time, on Sunday, Eastern time. We're going to talk all about interactive read-alouds. I want to go a little bit more in depth about what an interactive read-aloud is and what are some very easy activities that you can automatically be implementing in your classroom the next day, okay, into your classroom. So come and join me next Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern time to talk all about interactive read-alouds. All right?
Mr. Kyle wants to know what you're looking forward to in the coming week.
Oh, guys, I'm teaching 3.5 days. Guys, I promise I'm a good teacher. Okay.
An hour of motivation.
3.5 days. I have, and that's because we have conferences. So I have conferences Thursday afternoon, so starting at 1 o'clock until 7:30. And then I have conferences all day Friday. So no students in the afternoon on Thursday, and then no students on Friday, and no students on Monday. I love my students. I do. I really do. All of them. But I am very excited about meeting with parents. I like meeting with parents. I like chit-chatting with them. It's other adults than me just sitting there talking with kids. It's fun. I like it. So that's probably the thing that I'm looking forward to the most. Oh, Angela says she can't wait about the interactive read-alouds. Thank you, Angela. Still my favorite. Okay, so thank you guys so much for joining me on this live chat. I really appreciate it. I hope that you take some time, give the video a thumbs up, subscribe it if you are new to this channel so that you can be notified the next time I go live, which is next Sunday. Join me, 7 p.m. Eastern. And I will see you all next time. Bye.
Grab the cheat sheet.
Grab the cheat sheet.